Welcome, welcome everyone. Welcome to this session. Very warm greetings from Mercy Technologies. So, what is our agenda for today? What is our agenda for today? So, the agenda for today is to learn about searching and sorting techniques, right? The searching and sorting techniques that we have already mentioned you, right? So, these are the following searching and sorting techniques that we'll be learning about today. So, the searching techniques are linear search and binary search, and the sorting techniques are insertion sort, bubble sort, selection sort, merge sort, quick sort, counting sort, radix sort, so on and so forth, right? This is our agenda for today. Okay, this is our agenda for today, and we will be we'll be looking into every part over here, line by line, step by step. So what I actually want you guys, some expectation from you guys is like, maybe you have a pen and paper with you. Okay, so like start writing the code, or maybe start getting more interactive for yourself, right? In case you have any doubt, I told you that you can message, right? Thank you. So let's start. Let's start the session. Thank you. Voice is clear. Now let's move forward. Let's move forward. So what I want to say is, first before we actually start, or before we actually move into why do we need to learn all this searching, sorting techniques, etc., etc. So you generally hear from the people that people ask me like, how do we search it, or how do we sort it, or maybe can you write an algorithm for quick sort? How do you do merge sort? What is selection sort? What is insertion sort? Or is it an online sort? Or is it an adaptive technique of algorithm, etc., etc.? These are some few questions that come. Like, these are the questions that are asked in interviews generally, right? So that's the reason why we have to learn about it. So not just for interviews, guys. If we take a real time perspective, or if we take a real time scenario or something like that, so generally we are given what do you call, rankings, let's say, in the class, right? We say rank 1 to, let's say, rank 100. The reason for giving ranks is, for example, let's say something goes, or maybe you need to be called as per your performance or something. So what they do is like, they'll call the first 10 numbers, or first 20 numbers, first 30 numbers. That can be based on rank, that can be based on your roll number, etc., etc. The reason for giving all this is, it's easier for them to search, right? It's easier for them to search. For example, let's say you do not have a roll number, right? You do not have a roll number, and they have to search you. So in the sense, yeah, in the sense, like what they have to do is, the only that they can have is, like, they have to go to the 100th floor, or maybe go to person by person, make sure that he's so and so person or not, right? Similarly, the reason for learning about the searching and sorting techniques is something related to the real world scenario, right? The reason why we have to sort, the reason why we have to search, we already have a number of examples in our real world. At the same time, we can do that even in a better way. How do we do that in a programmatic way, etc., etc., is something that is important even in an interview perspective. And also, as a programmer, if we do not know what is searching and sorting, then maybe somewhere we are lacking something, or maybe somewhere we do not have the clarity about, right? So that's the reason why we have to get all this motivation and learn about the searching and sorting techniques, right? So without any delay, let me move forward and open my whiteboard, right? Microsoft whiteboard. So here, what I'd like to straight away go is my first topic for today. My first topic for today is linear search, right? Linear search. So what is that? Let me write it down. It is linear search. Linear, right? Linear search is nothing but, as I told you, for example, let's say we have a class and we do not have a roll number, right? We have a class and we do not have a roll number. So, but let's say you need to search for a person named let's say Surya. Okay, let's say Surya. So you need to search for that person. How do you search? Is like, you need to go to each and every person and make sure that he's Surya or not, right? So this is what you call brute force technique. There is no logic involved in it. Go to every person, try to search if he's that person or not, and then move forward, and then move forward, and then move forward. So that is what it is. That is what it is. uh, just a second. So this is what a linear search is. Linear search is nothing but it's a brute force way of solving. So what is meant by brute force way? Brute force is nothing but not a great logic involved in it, right? Not a great logic involved in it. Just go with the flow, right? Just go with the flow. Anyone you go, you search. If it is there, then you find. If not, then you move forward. If yes, it's there. If not, you move forward. Something like that. So what I'd like to say is something like this. Maybe I'll show that to you with an example of something like this, right? So so here's my linear search. Let's say I'm increasing this. So what is my linear search? Linear search, for example, let's say I have an array, right? I have an array. It is not sorted, right? It has the numbers in a random order. There is no particular order for that, right? So here we have a target value of 11, right? We have a target value of 11, and we need to search for that 11. First we go to 13. Is 11? Is it 11? No, move forward. Go to 6. Is it 11? No, move forward. 5. Is it 11? No, move forward, move forward, move forward, until a particular point where you get 11, right? And you got 11, and you're saying, yes, I got 11. This is called as linear search, guys. You do not have any programming. So this is how a linear search works, guys. It starts from 13 and goes to 11. It's not sorted. It's only brute force. That's what I told you. It starts from an index of 0. It moves forward until you find an element called 11 that you are intending to search. Or maybe if you want me to put it in a flow chart, right? Let's say whatever we thought about this technique, let's try to actually even more understand, like actually even more understand of what it is, right? Something like this I can say. So this is my flow chart for this, guys. Okay. Or maybe I will just reduce this one. This is my target value, and this is how my brain thinks, right? This is how my brain thinks. So how is it thinking? First I'll begin, right? I'll say, are there any more items to search? Yes, there are more items to search. Check the next item. For in this case, I'm checking 13, right? Did we find whatever we want? Did we find? If yes, then you return that item. If no, then you again come back and say you go for the next item, right? Did you find? No, again go for the next time. Did you find? No, again go for the next item. This is a loop that goes on, and if you find, you will come to an end and you return that item, and you never find, or maybe you came to an end and you never found the item, then you say item not found, right? This is how a linear search works, guys. Linear search, as I told you, is a brute force technique, and you do not have any great logic inside it. You just say that you will come to an array, try to find if your element is present or not. If yes, you return it. If not, you move forward. If not, you move forward. And where is the break condition, or where you have to stop? You have to stop at this particular point, which says you came to the end of an array, but you never found that item. So this is something called as a linear search, right? This is something called as a linear search. This is all the theory behind it, guys, right? This is all the theory behind, guys. Our intention is to search 11, even though there are 2, even though there are 20, even though there are 100, right? Our intention is to search for a value called 11. If you find it, you return it. If you do not find it, you do not return it. See, this is one more important observation, guys. Whenever we go for an interview, right? Whenever you are given a program or in an array, right? There are few important things that you need to ask for an interviewer, right? There are few important things that you need to ask for an interviewer, right? One of those important things is, are duplicates present? So when the duplicates are present, right? When the duplicates are present, your question is, which one to return? Do you need to return the first occurrence? Do you need to return the last occurrence, etc., etc., etc.? So this is one more important thing. But here we are doing our first program and we are not confusing at all. So that's why whenever I find an element, I'm returning it back. And that's what my flowchart says. Okay. And even my flowchart is not considering the duplicates. Even though there are duplicates, it doesn't break anywhere, right? It doesn't break anywhere. So in that sense, we will be doing it, right? So before we jump into the code, guys, I'd like to introduce about myself. So this is a brief introduction about myself. So let me move forward. Introduction about me. Okay. A brief introduction about me. I have 7+ years of IT industry experience, right? I work for a product-based company. I lead a team. I take care of 2 products end to end. I work for a product-based company. Okay. I take care of 2 products end to end, right? And most importantly, I'm an Oracle certified Java professional. I've done my certification quite some time back, right? I have 2+ years of experience in teaching in the sense it includes both. I used to train the freshers who came to the company, right? And then I used to give my volunteership in the company. I used to teach for the people who are outside. I used to teach for the people who wanted to increase their knowledge, etc., etc. And I teach online as well recently. Okay. And then I love sharing my knowledge to the learners who are in need, right? I love I like whenever if somebody asks, I like to share whatever I know. Okay. And then finally, I'm Surya. My name is Surya, and I have this is a brief introduction about myself, right? Without any delay, let's move forward and try to understand. So let's move forward and try to understand. Okay, so what we did is linear search is something like this. So it's a brute force technique. That's what I said. Brute force. Brute force is a very bad word for the people who are learning data structures, algorithms, sketch. But this linear search is something that behaves that behaves like this. So this is how it works. This is how it works. So it's like I can name this as a brute force techniques. Brute force, right? So now with this understanding, if you want me to code for this one, right? Let's say we need to code for this one. Let me try to write code, right? Let me try to write code. So what is my code saying? My code is saying something like this. So maybe I can write it very simple. For example, let's say I have an array, input array. I'll say it as ARR. Okay. For int I is equal to 0, I less than okay. Just a second, guys. Just a second. I is equal to 0, I less than ARR dot length and I plus plus. So this is my for loop, right? This is my for loop. What I'm saying, if ARR of I is equal to, let's say I need to search for an element called X, right? Then what you do, return X, right? Something like this. If you do not find it, Guys, I think the session has been stopped because of some technical reason. Please, please confirm if you are able to hear me and if you are able to see my screen. Guys, are you able to see my screen? Okay, okay. So what we did is as part of our you know whatever we discussed till now is something like this. We have a linear search. Linear search is nothing but it's a brute force technique, right? When it's a brute force technique, what I actually mean to say is, like, we are not implementing anything, or we are not doing something fancy. The only thing that we are trying to do is something like this. We try to move forward until we find an element. So that's why what I've done is I've taken a for loop, right? I've taken a for loop over here. What is my for loop doing? It's trying to find out if an element called X is actually present or not. If it is present, then you're returning it. If not, what do you say? Return. Or maybe I can print here, not found. Something like this is a good pseudocode for us, guys, right? This is what actually we had in our flow chart, and this is what we try to do or implement as part of our pseudocode as well. So I've written the code for this one. Let me show that code to you straight away, and let's see whatever we have written is correct or not. This is my linear search program. Okay, maybe I'll try to close all the other tabs, right? Close others. So what we are done, forget about this main method over here. So what we did is, there is a linear search. This is a method, right? What is it expecting? It is expecting an array, an input array, right? After we have an input array over here, what we try to do is we try to iterate it from I is equal to 0 until the length of it. And then if we are able to find this element called X, we are returning true, right? Or else we are returning false, right? Or else we are returning false. Linear search is just telling us, are we able to find an element or not? Are we able to find an element or not? Let's try to see. Let's say we are trying to search this. Let's say we are trying to search this 50, right? We are trying to search this, right click, run as a Java application. Now if I say that I'm trying to search for a number called 50, I'm able to see that it is true, right? It's returning true, which means my linear search is actually working. What am I trying to do is, I'm trying to pass this array, iterate over that array. If I find that element, return true, or else you return false. Now let's say I try to search for a negative condition. So what is my negative condition? Let's say I'm trying to search for 60. Okay, let's say this is what I'm trying to search for, and here's what it is. I searched and finally it gave me false, right? This is what a linear search is for you guys. So what it tried to do is, it has taken this input 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 and tried to iterate over every element. It found that there is no element called 60 inside this, so that's why it's returning false. It's that simple. The code is that simple, guys. Okay, the code is, guys, are you able to see my screen? I see people saying that they are not able to see my screen or hear me properly. Here, as part of our linear search, what we try to do is, we try to do a very simple thing. We started, okay, okay. So what we try to do is, we started, and that I told you is a brute force technique, right? We started and our target was to find 11. We came, search for 13 and compared 11 and 13. Is it similar or not? No, move forward. 6, you compare it with 11. Is it similar or not? No, move forward. No, move forward until you get the element called 11. The same thing we have written over here in the flow chart as well. And the same thing we try to implement in our code as well. So what is my code saying? My code is saying something like this. I have a main method. Inside this, I have a method called linear search, right? Inside that, I had a for loop, right? I try to iterate it. I try to find, and if it is available, then I'm returning true, or else I'm returning false. It's that simple, guys. So let's try to analyze the time and space complexity for this one. Okay, time and space complexity for this one. Time and space complexity, this is an iterative technique, guys. When it is an iterative technique, so it's very simple, right? You have to calculate the number of steps that can have in the worst case, right? For example, let's say my array is of size, let's say 10, right? And in the worst case, I have to search all my 10 elements. So when the size is 10, then the number of steps is equal to 10, right? And let's say array size is, let's say, 1000. In the worst case, the number of comparisons or the number of steps that I need to do is also 1000, right? Actually, with this, what I actually wanted to say is my steps are directly proportional. Steps are directly proportional to the input. So whenever my input is there and it is n, right? Whenever my input is there, it is n. When my input is n is nothing but, let's say, the size of an array, and the number of steps also would be becoming n. So which means my time complexity would become order of n. Order of n is nothing but it's an asymptotic notation, guys. So it's not, this is not a good session to actually discuss about what is asymptotic session, etc, etc. So we forget about this average case. In the best case, guys, best case is nothing but you want to search for 13 and you are searching, right? You really don't care, right? There's no point of having a best case, and there's no point of having an average case as well, right? Whenever we try to do something, we try to implement an algorithm on how it performs in the worst case, right? In the worst case, any algorithm that you take, any algorithm in that you take, in the best case, it should perform in order of one time complexity, and that we really don't care about, because we write programs in such a way that they perform better in the worst cases as well. So that's why most of the times we would be actually considering about the worst case only, right? So that is what I was telling. So let's say there is a input of 1000. There may be a chance that your first element is the element that you are searching. So which means it may become order of 1, but that is not what you intend. In the worst case scenario, you have to do all this 1000 steps. So that's why we denote that with order of n time complexity. This order is nothing but big O. Big O directly, has a relation of what happens in the worst case, kind of, right? What happens in the worst case, kind of. People actually try to say about the average cases as well. Average cases are also considered, but generally whenever we try to write the bigger systems, we actually tend to calculate the worst case scenarios as well. uh, In place algorithm is nothing but an algorithm that you are able to do in your simple in your same array. You're not doing any write operations over here, only you're trying to search something, right? So this should be an in place algorithm. You're not what do you call, you're not saying something that I'm using a secondary array or a temporary array that useful for me, etc, etc. Linear search is nothing but a simple one. You have an input which is an array of size x, or let's say size n. You're trying to search it. You're not having any temporary arrays, you're not having any helper arrays or something like that. So it becomes an in-place algorithm, right? So with this, guys, what I actually wanted to conclude over here is our linear search is nothing but you are trying to move forward one by one, step by step, and you will go until the step where you can find that element. Now let's go to our second one. So let's go to our second technique today. So what is our second technique for today? It's nothing but it is binary search, right? Binary search. Let's say binary search. So if you see, previously I told you, let's say you went into a class, right? You went into a class, and you wanted all, let's say there are 100 people in your class, and everyone has a roll number, right? Everyone has a roll number, and roll number is nothing but it's unique. Now what I want you guys is, like, for example, let's say I wanted all my 100 people, these are my 100 people. Let's say these are my 100 people. Roll number 1 is standing over here, like that. Maybe roll number 20 standing here, roll number 50 standing here, roll number some, let's say, until it is standing here, right? So what I'd like to say is, let's say I'm telling any student, you go and get me the person of roll number 73, right? You go and get me the person with roll number 73. So it's an intuition. It's an intuition. Since you have already told all the people to stand in a sorted order, stand in a sorted order. So what you try to actually do is you moved forward until 100. So now there is no point of starting at 1, right? Now there's no point of starting at 1. So since you need to search for an element called 73, right? Element called 73, let's say, element code, or maybe a person with roll number 73. So there's no point of starting at 1, right? What you can do is, maybe you will come to half of the line and say, hey, what is your roll number? And let's say he says my roll number is 50. Okay, so your mind says now there is no point of searching anyone inside this, right? Anyone inside this, because 73 would obviously be more than 50, right? 73 would obviously be more than 50. So my searching will be somewhere over here, right? Searching will be somewhere over here. Now what I did is I just moved forward. Somewhere I came, and I came to a particular point, and let's say I'm thinking that it's 75, right? Let's say I came to a number called 75, and I asked this guy, hey, what is your roll number? He said 75. Then your mind says, now there is no point of searching anyone in this part, right? There is no point of searching anyone in this part, because my 73 should be somewhere between 15 and 50 and 75, which means in my first check itself I'm trying to reduce half of the people, and my second check I'm trying to reduce half of the people, and I'm concluding that there is no point of going towards the left or right. There is no point of going towards my left or right. And this is what our human brain says, right? There is nothing fancy in it, right? There's nothing fancy in it. This is what our human brain says. So this is nothing but a binary search. It has a prerequisite. Binary search has a prerequisite. What is that prerequisite? Binary search has a prerequisite. What is that prerequisite? Binary search has a prerequisite. What is that prerequisite? Binary search has a prerequisite. What is that prerequisite? Binary search has a prerequisite. What is that prerequisite? Binary search has a prerequisite. Yeah. So my actual question previously was, I have my people who are sorted. All right. So I need not go to every person and ask, are you this person? Are you this person? My human intention, or my brain intuition says that I first go to my half and try to check, right? What is your roll number? He says my roll number is 50. Then you came to a conclusion that there's no point of searching anyone who is left to my 50, because they are obviously be less than 50. But the point of search over here is 75, right? Or 73. So which means for every step of my comparison, I'm trying to reduce the half, right? I'm trying to reduce the half. This is something which we can do. I mean, generally we do as well, right? In our day-to-day life. Now let's say, maybe I'll try to make it more uh, I'll try to make it more what do you call, explanatory, by showing you what is a binary search, right? What is my binary search? This is something like this, guys. A simple diagram that I'm taking over here. I'm trying to take it over here. Now my intention is to search for number called 45, right? Number called 45. So this is an array that is given to me, and it is sorted, right? And I need to search for 45. So for that, as part of my previous explanation, what I try to do is, I'll try to go for the middle element in it. So what I'll do is, I'll calculate the low plus high divided by 2, low plus high divided by 2, which means my total, my low is 0 and my high is 8. 0 plus 8 divided by 2, 0 plus 8 divided by 2, which gives me something called 4, right? I go to my index called 4 and try to check, right? Try to check. So what do I try to check, guys? I try to check something like this. I compare my 38 with 45, right? I compare my 38 with 45. And after my comparison, what I try to do is, I came to know that 38 less than 45 is less than 45. So as part of my previous understanding, what I came to know is, there is no point of searching over here. So which means I can discard all this part, right? Now I can discard all this part. Now what I can do is, like, I can search only in this part, right? My intention is to search only in this part, right? Similarly, what I wanted to tell over here is, for every step that you do, you discard half of your array. Even in here, what you do is, again, from 45 to 90, you would try to find out the middle element. Let's say it's a 77, and you came to know that when you compare 77 with 45, you came to know that there is no point of searching everything in here, right? What I wanted to tell over here is, for every step that I'm trying to do, I'm trying to reduce my searching space to half of my arrays, half of my array at that particular time. So maybe I'll try to put this into uh, a simple flow chart, so that it will become even more easier for you to understand, right? A very simple flow chart, so that it becomes even more easier for you to understand. So what is my flow chart saying, guys? Okay, what is my flow chart saying? Now, here, what I wanted to do over here is, there is a simple one, what I try to do over till now is, I will take my middle element, compare it, and if it is less, then there's no point of searching towards my right. If it is greater, then there's no point of searching towards my left. So what I wanted to tell over here is, for every searching or every iteration, I'd be reducing everything by half, right? This is my actual intention of doing it. Maybe I'll try to explain you in a better way using the following technique, right? Using the following technique, or maybe I'll show you something which is an image. I'll be showing that to you as a flow chart, right? This is what a flow chart actually is, right? This is what a flow chart actually is. Something like this simple, this is an intuitive one. Here, what we are trying to do is, we are trying to do something like this. We are searching, we are starting with an index of 0, and we are trying to move. What is my start is nothing but 0. What is my end is nothing but my end of an array, right? Is start less than end? This is something, a breaking condition, guys. If this condition occurs, then you would obviously say that you have not found your key. No, in that case, what you're trying to do is, you're trying to find your mid, start plus end by 2. What you did, 0 plus 8 by 2, and you came to know it's 4, right? Array of mid, which means array of 4. Is it right? Is it the number that you're trying to search for? If no, then what you're trying to do is, now my search space will become 45 to 90, right? So that's why I'm saying start is equal to mid plus 1. If no, what I'll try to do is, my end, I see, my end would be something like this. What I want to say is, for example, the other case is positive, and let's say I want to discard all this, which means my start will become the same, but my end will be something which is mid minus 1. So which means actually speaking, this would be my search space. So after this condition, as per whatever this condition says, I'll be modifying my indexes either to what you call end is equal to mid minus 1, or start is equal to mid plus 1, something like this. Is so intuitive, guys. So it starts over here, and we calculate the mid, and whenever we want to have something in the mid, we would be modifying the mid as per our condition over here. What is our condition? Mid is equal to start plus end by 2. This is so simple. And whenever you say that you are saying start is less than end, then you are saying the key is not found. Or else, if you find it straight away, then you're saying yes, you found the array, right? You found it in the array. Right? Here, what I wanted to actually say is, for every iteration that we do, we are trying to reduce our search space by half. So in this way, the number of comparisons that we are trying to do, or number of comparisons that we are trying to do to search for an element, is significantly less. Because, for example, in this simple example itself, we are reducing 1 2 3 4 4 elements in a single iteration. In the next we are reducing, which means it is a lot better in comparison to the previous one, which is order of n. We'll try to discuss the complexity of this one even further. But before that, maybe I'll try to write, or maybe I'll try to show code for this flowchart, something like this. The code is also very simple, guys. So how is my code looking? So my code is looking in this particular way. So what is that binary search? For what is my binary search saying? Forget about this main method. So what am I trying to do here? I'm saying start is less than end. So I've written a while loop, right? A while loop. Previously I showed you for loop, guys. So this is one more loop, which is a while loop. What I try to do is I try to calculate start mid is equal to start plus n by 2, right? If this is the case, if you find it, if AR of mid is equal to X, then you return true. If not, then you modify the mid. If not, you modify the mid, and that's it. You are returning false, right? So in this case, if it is not found, which means it is not found, so you're trying to return false, right? This is what my binary search actually says, guys. Whatever is written over here, I try to make it, or I try to write that as part of my code itself, right? So here I'm trying to search for an element called 50, right? And in my binary search, this method is expecting an array, right? It is expecting an array. What I'm trying to search is I'm trying to search for an element called X, right? It is starting and it is ending index. It is a starting index, it is an ending index. So maybe I'll try to run this one. And say, and I found an element called 50, right? I found an element called 50. And let's say I try to search for an element called 60, which is not there. It should be returning me false, right? It should be returning me false. So this is what my program says. Whatever has been written in the flow chart, the same thing has been written in the code, and that's it. Okay, that's it. It's very simple algorithm, guys. There's no reason to break your heads or think that binary search is something which is what do you call, that's hard to code or something. Whatever we try to write as part of our flow chart, right? Or maybe we need not even write a flow chart also. The only thing that we need to write is to think in the mind what happens, and that's it. Nothing else. There's nothing else to learn here or move forward in this part as well, right? So with this, guys, let's try to understand the time complexity of this. So you can take a big array and count number of iterations and show people how many iterations will reduce with respect to linear search. That is correct. So maybe I can take an example, but actually that is what I'll be trying to do in my time complexity analysis. Okay, so let's say I'll be taking a simple what do you call it? I'll be taking a simple array case, right? For example, this is my simple array. Right? It is having an elements 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Let's say I have an element called 9, right? So now let's say my search, I need to search for an element called 9, right? Let's say I need to search for an element called 9. In my linear search, how many steps are there, or maybe how many steps? So first I'll try to do 1. If not found, I'll go to 2. If not found, I'll go to 3. If not found, I'll go to 4. Not found, I'll go to 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So how many steps? This number of steps are equal to 9, right? Let's say we try to do that as part of our binary search. Whenever we try to do that as part of our binary search, we'll try, this is an index of 0. This is an index of 8, right? First, what is our mid? Mid is nothing but 0 plus 8 by 2, which is 4, right? We 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So our mid is 4. We'll be trying to compare what? Compare 5 with 9. Compare 5 with 9. So in this case, what we are trying to do is when we compare, we came to know that 9 is greater than 5. So then we concluded there's no point of doing all this. So this first comparison will be having my step 1, right? Now after I came here, I came to know that I should be searching from over here to over here. So after here, what I came to know is my start will become mid plus 1, which means my start is equal to 5, or maybe is equal to, the start will go over from here until the part where I'll be moving forward. So what I say, mid is 4, the mid is 4, I'm comparing 5. So which means whatever is there which is left to it, including 5, is nothing to search. So which means my start would become would become mid plus 1, which is this is my new start. I write over here, this is my new start, and my end is the same. So which means again I'm saying 5. So which means again I'm trying to do over here this one plus this one. I'd be finding the mid out of it. So what is my mid out of it? 5 plus 5 plus 8 by 2. So what is my 5 plus 8 by 2? Right, 5 5 10 13 13 by 2, which means I'll be getting 6. Right, I'll be getting 6. So I'm taking the floor out of it, guys. Okay, so I'll be taking 6, and again I'll be comparing 7 with the element that I got already. So which means that becomes my second comparison. Right, so I came to know that whatever is towards my left, I'm trying to reduce it. Right, again I came, now I have only two elements, 8 and 9. Again I'll be finding out the mid out of it, and then I come to know that my mid will be pointing out to this number called 9. Right, to this number called 9, and this mid is something but a 9. So which means again I'll be doing, and what my comparison would become, my comparison would become my step 3, which is my step 3, and I'll be comparing, and then I'll come to know that I already found my element called 9. The same thing over here we are trying to do in the code. Right, here what we're trying to do, we are trying to find the mid element, and we are trying to compare. If not, this is what we are trying to do, etc, 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 etc. So it means if you see here, guys, intuitively what you understand is, here in a linear search you are able to do that in steps which are equivalent to 9, but in binary search you are able to do that only in 3 steps. Right, only in 3 steps. Simple, guys. You are able to do that only in 3 steps. This is a simple example of just very shorter length, which is only 9. So consider an input which is having so huge data in it. Right, so huge data in it. For every iteration, if you are able to try to reduce that by half, which means the number of steps that you are trying to find out to get until the point where you need to search is very less. So that's why it becomes very easy for you to actually understand this particular scenario. Okay, so this is called, can we slip there's no point of splitting the array into 2 or etc. That actually confuses things. Right, it is so intuitive. So that's why we are not splitting the array into different parts. We are actually trying to find that in line only. So this time complexity would become order of log n. Right, so for people who do not understand what log n is, etc, the simple shortcut to find out is, if you are able to reduce the comparisons half for every iteration, then you can blindly think that it is an order of n time complexity, guys. I can explain that to you mathematically and move forward in various cases, but I think this is not the time for me to do that. The only shortcut that you can think about is, right, for every iteration, if you are trying to reduce your input by half, then you can conclude that you are doing that in log n time complexity. So generally in mathematics, guys, log of n by default has a base of 10. Right, but in computer science, log n always has a base of 2. Right, log n always has a base of 2. So that's why we generally say it has log of n time complexity. That means indirectly we are saying that it is having a time complexity of log n to the base 2. So what is this log n, what is this base 2, etc. I mean, like, if I explain that, then I don't think that I can complete whatever are the items that we planned for today. So that's why, maybe I'll explain that to you in a better way, or maybe I can give that to you in a material, or etc. So that's why. So in this case, what I actually wanted to tell you guys is, our time complexity has reduced significantly from order of n to order of log n. So actually, if we are having an input which is sorted, we can search very efficiently. And actually speaking, this searching efficiency, this log n is something that is giving us the best searching efficiency, space complexity for this problem. Okay, space complexity, there's no space complexity, right? See, when we are given an input, the same thing, if it is an iterative technique, for example, let's say we are saying the time complexity is order of n, right? What we actually mean is the number of steps are directly proportional to the input. Okay, and space complexity, let's say if it is order of n, which means the amount of space we consume is directly proportional to input. We are given as part of our input itself, we are given an array which is of size, let's say 100, right? Which is of size, let's say 100. So as part of our program that we have written, did we consume any extra space, right? Did we consume any extra space, or did we have any any array that helps us to come to our conclusion? It's no, right? Only the input that we are taken, and that input we try to move forward or try to have a logic that made is equal to start plus n by 2 or etc, and we made sure that we are not consuming any extra space. So when you are not consuming any extra space, even though you have an input of 10,000, right, but you do not consume extra space, so that's why the space complexity is order of order of 1, right? Space complexity is order of 1. So indirectly we say it is a constant. So it's a constant space complexity, right? This is what a constant space complexity means, guys. This is what a constant space complexity means. Constant space complexity is nothing but you are not consuming any extra space as part of your input, right? As part of your programming technique that you're trying to do, you're not consuming an extra space. So that's why the space complexity will become order of 1, right? So with this, guys, we are able to conclude that what is a linear search, what is a binary search, what is its space complexity, what is its time complexity. Time complexity is nothing but we are consuming more number of steps, then we are saying that it is order of n time complexity. And if you are reducing the steps half for every iteration, so which means you are saying that it is having order of log n time complexity. And space complexity for both the techniques that we discussed till now is only order of 1. The reason is you're not consuming any extra space as part of your algorithm, right? That's it. It's so simple, guys. It's so simple and it's so intuitive as well. Guys, please do not leave the session. Okay, so I see a message from it is an insertion sort. It is an insertion sort. Previously we tried to conclude that as part of our searching, right? If we are doing a linear search, we can do that in order of n time complexity, right? We can do that in order of n time complexity. But if we are trying to do a binary search, you are able to do that in order of log n time complexity. So which means for searching, you are able to significantly reduce the number of comparisons, right? But to achieve that, we had a prerequisite, right? What is that prerequisite? Prerequisite is nothing but we should have the input sorted, right? So that is our prerequisite, guys. So for that, okay, we should have it to be sorted. That was our prerequisite. And to do that, we actually have taken an input which is already sorted, right? So when we had taken already sorted input, we came to know that we are able to reduce the number of steps or number of comparisons that we make to finally come to a conclusion are very much less. But sorting itself is one more step that we need to perform, right? So we'd be learning about different sorting techniques now. Having said that, we already know the reason why we have to sort it. The reason for sorting is to achieve searching in order of log n time complexity, right? Because if it is order of n, it is taking so much of time to search this. But if we are able to do that, then we can do that in order of log n time complexity. Okay, so we can add hash. Yes, there's hashing is a technique that gives you searching in order of searching is searching is done in order of one time complexity, but hashing may not be applicable to every possible way, right? We have different tools to do different things, guys. For example, let's say I have a hammer, right? I can do different things with it. I have a needle, I do different things with it, right? I have a sword, I can do different things with it. I have a knife, I do different things with it. So the reason for having all these things, the reason for having hashing, a reason for having heaps, reason for having trees, a reason for having graphs, every data structure has its own significance, right? Every data structure has its own significance. So as I told you, right, hashing can achieve searching in order of one time complexity. So there is no point of learning binary search which can do that in order of log and time complexity, right? So there's no computer science subject itself, there is no whole semester itself, right? Hashing can be done, but not in every aspect, or not in every way, or not in every situation. So that's why is something that's why we cannot use hashing technique. What is hashing and all? Hashing is nothing but it is also an algorithm, or it is also a technique which can get your searching in order of one time complexity. Previously we came to know that in binary search we were able to do searching in order of log n, right? That is a better approach in compared to the linear search. But there is one more computer programming technique which does that in order of one time complexity, but this may not be applicable to every possible situation. So that's why we are not concluding or including this as part of our discussion for today. Okay, we are not including this as part of our discussion for today. Okay, so what is an insertion sort? Insertion sort is something that we'd be looking into right now. For that for that maybe I'll try to give you a brief, guys. Okay, maybe I'll try to give you a brief about an insertion sort. Insertion sort is nothing but we generally people like we actually like to play cards, right? Let's say somebody came to you and said that you take the deck of cards and you need to sort them, or maybe we play cards for fun, right? We will arrange the cards in a particular way, right? In a particular way every time. So we are actually doing nothing. We are doing an insertion sort case. Even if we do not know that we are trying to implement an insertion sort, we are implementing insertion sort because that's how our brain thinks. So let me try to explain you how our brain thinks as our, you know, as part of our brain things, and how do we do insertion sort, right? How do we do insertion sort? Let me take this forward, right? Let me try to take this forward. I'll erase this one first, which is not required for us right now. Okay, so my intention now is to teach you how an insertion sort works. Okay, let me move forward. First, as I told you, when we try to insert, or when we try to arrange our cards in our hand, what we try to do is in all the cards that are there for us, we will try to find out the least one, take that and put it first. Then again you start from the second card, you try to find what is the least card, try to take it out and put it at the correct position. Again you start from left, you try to find out what is the correct card, take it and put it in the correct position. So it's like for every iteration, what you try to do is you go to a particular, you take a particular card and try to fill it in a correct position. Same thing. Maybe I'll show you a simple image. I'll show you a simple image that gives you a better understanding of what I'm actually speaking about it right now. So what is that insertion sort, right? This is my insertion sort saying, is what is my insertion sort saying? Insertion sort is saying nothing but the following thing, right? So here, for example, I have an input 524613, etc., etc. This is my input. Forget about all my right hand things right now. So what I'll try to do is I will start with my element called 2, right? I will not be starting with my first card, guys. I'll not be starting with the first card. I'll be trying with second card. I'll take 2. I'll compare 2 with the element whatever is there to my left, right? Whatever is there to my left. Okay, I came to know that 5 is there. So I compare 2 is less than 5, right? So it means 2 should be over here. 2 should be over here. So I make sure that 2 is here and 5 is here. Now again I move forward. I came to an element called 4, right? This 4 I'll be comparing with 5, right? 4 I'll be comparing with 5. I came to know the 4 should be left towards 5. So that's why what I try to do is I'll try to take 4 and put it over here. Now again I have 5 over here and 4 over here. It's fact, right? Now I compare. Now my my comparison card is something called 6. I'll compare 6 with 5. I came to know that 5 is in its correct position, so I need not do anything, right? All these are in its correct position, need not do anything. So now I came to a number called 1, right? I compare that with 6, it should be here. I compare that now with 5, no, it should be even left. I compare that with 4, it should be even left. I compare that with 2, it should be even left. So I take this 1 all the way from here and I put it over in the start, right? I put it over in the start. Now I'll move forward. So what I move forward, I came to a number called 3, right? I compare 3 with my 6, it should be present left towards 6. I compare 3 with 5, it should be left towards 5. Compare 3 with 4, it should be left towards 4. Finally came to know that it is greater than 2. So that's why I came to know that this is the correct position for 3. So I take 3, I'll take all the way from here and I'll insert at this particular position. And after I do all the steps, I came to know that I have sorted all my cards. This is nothing but this is what we generally do when we try to sort a deck of cards, right? When we try to sort a deck of cards, let's say we in our hand, or we try to sort it, in this particular way, and this is how we do as part of our insertion sort. So insertion sort in simple ways is nothing but you try to take a card which is your second card, right? Not your first card, or maybe even if your first card, it varies implementation to implementation. You take your second card, you compare that with your first card. If you try to find that they are in improper positions, you just take it and insert it in the correct position. Now you go to the second iteration, try to make comparison. If it is in improper position, try to insert it in the correct position. The same thing, you will be moving forward until the position where you conclude that you are able to sort all your cards, right? Simple. It is so simple. And this is how generally our human brain thinks also, guys, right? This is how our human brain thinks also. So actually speaking, this is a very simple or an intuitive technique, right? Here on an overview, before I start writing code, on an overview, what I'll try to do is, like, first there are 2 iterations in it, guys. For example, I'll take my first card and I'll try to iterate. I start iterating. That is my outer iteration or my outer comparison. So when I go to my inner comparison, like for example, if you take this case, if I take my inner comparison as part of this case, again what I'm trying to do is innerly, or in my inner loop, I'll be comparing again. So which means there are 2 comparisons. First thing is outer, and then again there is an inner comparison, and then I'll be doing something like this. It's so simple. So this is how our actual algorithm or actual thinking goes on. Now if I need to put all this as part of a code, so I can do it very easily, guys, because it's just playing out with 2 for loops. Okay, so now let me try to write it. What I'll try to do is, first I'm taking my second card, I'm trying to compare it with my first card, and if it is not in the correct position, I'm just swapping the positions and I'm inserting in the correct position. That's it. So the same thing that I need to put into my code, let me try to put that into my code. Okay, there are people who ask this question quite a few number of times, guys, right? In our real time, we would be using these techniques, right? We'd be using these techniques in the sense we would not be using, right? So we'd be using all the libraries that are already there. So it is like collections.sort, arrays.sort, we'd be using these. But here the actual point is people hire us for a particular reason. Java has given us a few APIs. Says if you want to sort, you do arrays.sort. If you want to search, you do search. If you want to do something, you do something. They have all given us an they started spoon feeding us. For example, in our company, there comes a situation where you have to implement something which is similar, which is not there already, right? Java is not invented. So you should be very good in your basics, right? You should be very good in your basics, and you should be in a position to actually implement all this, right? If you're not in a position to implement all this, then there's no point of taking you or hiring you into the company, right? Even though, for example, let's say collections.sort, what sort it uses? It uses a quick sort and a merge sort, right? So if you do not know what is a quick sort and a merge sort, you're actually doing something which you do not know actually. Like, this is called an abstraction, guys. For example, let's say if you want me to speak about abstraction for 2 minutes, it's like when we drive a bike, we just horn it, right? And horn comes. That's so intuitive, and we really do not care about where wire is going, to which particular point it's getting, and inserting or something. So we are an end user, right? We are an end user. We are driving our bike. We bought it for some money. We came to know that if we press this, we get a horn. That's it. But in a software company, believe me, we are not end users. We are the ones who are developing it. And if we do not know that how this horn works, right? If we do not know as a developer, right, then there's no point of giving you a job. This is what it is, right? We already have everything as part of our collections, right? That's okay. That's fine. And if you do not know what or how that collections are working, then there's no point of learning them, right? If you do not know how they are working, again it becomes a problem. So that's why we need to learn what it says. Nobody will expect you to write an algorithm which comes in order of one time complexity after you join a company. But if you do not know how scientists have done this previously till now, then there's no point of giving you a job. This is what the companies think about, and this is what, like, people who ask in interviews, like if you take companies like Google, Microsoft, Oracle, or any big companies, Goldman Sachs, etc., they do not want you to use collections.sort. They want you to write the sorting algorithm. It's not that they want you implement after you join the company. It's that they want you to search, or they want to judge you, that are you in a position to actually understand that, uh, that how it is working, right? It's just a way of searching, guys. So this is a small example. I was uh, just a second. Okay, there's a question that says how we can know the number of comparisons without using the code. See, how we can know the number of comparisons without using the code is like, that depends on the number of cards that you have, right? For example, let's say you have the cards that are already sorted, right? That is called as the best case. The number of comparisons uh, would be like, for example, let's say in the worst case, even in the worst case, the number of comparisons would be n, because first you'll be taking your second card and comparing that with your first card, and you find that, okay, this is. So the outer number of comparison, the worst case or in the best case, would only be n, but inner number of comparisons or shifting operations depends on how sorted or unsorted your cards are, right? I'd be coming to this. This is called insertion sort, is called as an adaptive algorithm, right? It's an adaptive sorting algorithm, but I'll be coming to that, what is an adaptive sorting algorithm, or what exactly it is, etc. Let me try to move forward and make you understand. So just to continue, just to keep the continuation. So what is that? So I told you, insertion sort is nothing but the sort that we generally follow while playing our cards, or sorting a deck of cards. So what we try to do is, we take the second card, try to compare that with the first one, and try to see if it is in the correct position or not. If not, then we take it and then we insert it in the correct position, right? There are two loops which will be running. First thing is, you'd be comparing your cards one by one, and the second thing is, you'd be internally sorting that, right? Internally sorting that, or try to move the cards one by one until you achieve that it is put in a correct position. Same thing here. I have told you, there is a small or simple example. If I need to write this into a code, right? If I need to write this comparisons into code, right? How do we need to code this one? It's very simple, guys. As I told you, we would only be playing around with the for loops, right? For example, let's say I'd be writing the code in front of you. Let's see how we can formalize, or maybe how we can write all this into code. So what I told you, I have an outer for loop for int i is equal to 1, I less than, let's say, a array dot length, right? I plus plus. I'm writing a pseudocode here, guys. We will be seeing the actual code as we move forward. So I would be starting, I'd be starting from where? I'd be starting from 2, right? That's what I said. This is an index of 0, this is the index of 1. I'll be starting with 2. That's fine. So that's why I'm saying I is equal to 1. The index of array starts with 0, guys. So that's why the index has become 1, means we are starting with the second card. That's what I actually mean over here. Okay. Now we have started. Now in our second for loop, what we are trying to do is, again we have for loop for int j is equal to I, or I can say, yeah, j is equal to I, j greater than 0, j minus minus. Why we are trying to do this? Maybe as we move forward, you'll understand. Okay, so this is what I've done. Now I'll do the comparison. If array of j, right, is greater than array of j minus 1. What am I trying to do? I'm trying to compare 2 with 5. I'm trying to compare 2 with 5. If I'm trying to compare 2 with 5. If this is the case, then what I'll do is I will swap. Right? Same thing. That's what I'm trying to do. If this is the case, then what am I trying to do is I'm trying to swap this. That's it. This is a pseudo code, guys. We started with I is equal to 1, which means 2. And then again, we had a loop, inner loop. We tried to do something like that. We started with this 2 only. And then we tried to compare this one with this one. And if this is the case, which means 2 is 2 is less than 5, which means what I can say is this is 2 here, right? Because j minus 1, this is 5 here, right? In this case, what should I do is I should just swap, right? I should just swap and nothing else. This is a simple 2 for loops, and we try to play around with this for loops. And the swapping logic, how do we do it? How do we do, etc., etc.? Maybe I'll be showing that as part of my code, right? As part of my code. So this simple R selection sort, insertion sort algorithm is guys. Yeah, this is what. Okay, let me repeat it again. What it says, I have a deck of cards. I need to compare my 2 with 5. I need to compare my 2 with 5. So what my outer loop says, my outer loop is saying that I'll be moving from 2 until 3. Like I'll be moving like this, like this, like this, like this. But again, I have an inner loop which says it starts from j is equal to 1, or maybe j is equal to I, right? J is equal to I, j greater than 0, j minus minus. This is an indirect way, or maybe I'm saying it is this loop moves in a forward direction. This loop moves in a moves in a direction where it starts from here and moves towards my left, right? Because this is how it is, right? My outer loop should move in this forward direction. My inner loop should start from this particular point. What is that particular point? From the place where we started in for the first loop, and then we have to make comparison to whatever is there towards my left. If you take this example, guys, right? This example, what I did in my first loop, I tried to move forward, right? This is how I came forward in my first loop. And in my second loop, what I tried to do is I tried to compare this 6, or maybe I tried to compare this 1 with every possible element towards my left, right? This is what I tried to do. So it means in my first loop, I'm trying to move forward. In my second loop, I'm trying to move towards my left. But until which left? Until this point. I'm starting with j is equal to I, and then I'm trying to move forward, move in a reverse direction. This is my forward direction loop. This is my reverse direction loop. And if this case occurs, right? If this case occurs, I'm trying nothing but I'm trying to swap. That's it. There's nothing here, nothing fancy over here. Whatever our brain thinks is something that we have written as part of our pseudocode. That's it. That's it. Maybe what I'll try to do is I will try to show that to you in the code. I'll show you what is my swapping logic. So here for everything, what I'd like to do is, guys, swapping is something that I told you here, right? Swapping is something that I told you here. So what is the swapping? Swapping is nothing but I'm trying to make this 2 to 5 and 5 to 2. This comparison, or this logic is something over here, right? Over here, right? This is over here, right? This is called a swapping. 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 Swapping is nothing but you're trying to make a particular a particular index with modified with some other index element. So something like this, when you try to swap two elements using a temporary variable, how do you do it, guys? Right? How do you do this? Something is simple. What I wanted to show now to you is sorting. How do I swap? Swap is nothing but whenever, let's say, whenever I need to do swapping between two elements, right? Between two elements, what I do is I write a simple pseudo code, something like this. I do not want to show how a swapping actually works, but this is how swapping will be done. Right? For example, let's say my value of a is equal to 10. Maybe I'll use a different color. Okay, let's say I have a is equal to 10, and let's say b is equal to 20. Now I'm saying I need to write some code. I need to write some code so that a becomes 20 and b becomes 10. So for this I'll be using a variable called temp, right? Variable called temp. So what I do is, like, I'll say a is equal to uh, a is equal to I'll say something like this: temp is equal to a is equal to b is equal to temp, something like this. So the same thing, if we do something like that, temp, by doing this, what happens if we write these three lines of code, these three lines of simple code, what I do is temp is a value. What is my temp value now? Right now, temp value right now after my first step would be is equal to 10, right? What is my a value? A value is nothing but a is equal to b, but b is equal to what? B is equal to, okay, b is equal to 20, right? What is my a, okay, what is my b? So b is equal to something like this, which is temp, which is my third line, which I say 10, and then I'd like to do nothing. So using this temporary variable, we're using this simple variable, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to swap both the values of a and b, something like this, which is a simple, or maybe the simplest program that we are taught in college, or maybe the basic programming one that we learn. Same thing over here. What I did is I have written a utility method, guys. Generally, when we work in companies. So let's say there are some common operations that are done in various part of our code. For example, we have huge project, right? We have a huge project, but there are some common operations that we do generally. So all those common operations, we put them into utility classes, right? So previously somebody was mentioning the collections is already there, right? Collections also is a utility. It is present in java.util package, right? So collection is also utility. What I actually wanted to tell you over here is, when we as a programmer develop something, and if many of our teammates or most of our company, or maybe I myself use that multiple times, right? So I think that this is a functionality that I need to have somewhere, right? That is called as a utility class. So since I'm dealing about sorting, what I did is I've written a class called sortutil. This is a simple one, guys. I just wanted to introduce you to this programming, or maybe this maintainability technique. So what I did is there is a class called sortutil, right? One important thumb rule is every utility class has all the methods as public and they're static, right? This is something a thumb rule that is followed. So as part of my sortutil, I've written a method called swap, right? I've written a method called swap. So inside this, the same thing that I told you, or the same pseudocode that I've told you over here, I try to put it over here. Temp is equal to AR of index I, and then I'm trying to swap this one, then I'm trying to swap this one. With this, what happens is both my indexes, wherever I'm trying to swap, would be swapped, and I can achieve this functionality in part of my pseudocode. This is my pseudocode, right? I've taken an outer for loop. It is starting from the first element, or I can see the second element. That's why I've taken I is equal to 1. And then I have an inner loop which starts again over here, but it will be moving in a backward direction, right? This will be moving in a backward direction. I told the same thing to you. And whenever there is this condition, if condition, so then I'll be swapping. I'll be trying to show the same code for you guys. Nothing else, nothing fancy over here. So what is this? Insertion sort, or maybe insertion sort impl. I try to improvise my code, right? What I did, I've taken a class. I'm saying insertion sort impl, right? We can put it whatever the name that we want, but here I just want to implement the insertion sort over here. So I've taken a method called insertion sort, and what is it expecting? It is expecting an input data array, right? It is expecting an input data array. In our example, our input data array is 524613,
right? 524613, this will be our input data array. So I'm taking the length out of it, and maybe I take temp. Okay, temp. Okay, and I'm not using temp over here. Let me remove this one. Okay, nothing. So now what happens? I've taken I. What is I? I is for the card's iteration till the card's end, right? This is what I is for. J is nothing but it indicates where do we start, and we move in a backward direction, right? So here we have two for loops. The first for loop will start from I is equal to 1 until the length it moves towards my right direction, and there is one more for loop. It takes j is equal to I and it moves towards my right direction. And then finally, what I'm trying to do is, in this case, if input data array of j is less than j minus 1, which means this comparison operation, if 2 is less than 5, then what you do is you swap. Nothing but I've written a swap util. I'm going to swap. I'm trying to do all this operation, and finally make sure that this is my insertion sorting algorithm, and this is how it works. Now let's say I want to search my insertion sorting algorithm. So that's why what I've written is I've written a main method. All right, I've written main method. Where is my main method? Where is my main method? Yeah, sort tester. Okay, so I have written a sort tester. Let's say I commented these two for now. Maybe I'll try to even delete now, so that I need not want to confuse you guys. So what is my input? My input, maybe I've taken a different input, 642135, something like this. All right, when I have an input data array of something like this sort, right, I'm trying to call insertion sort on this one. Whatever I've written here I've written an insertion sort, right? For insertion sort, I've taken two for loops. One is moving towards my right direction, one is moving towards my left direction, right? I try to write a swap logic over here. So in my tester, I've taken an insertion sort impl, and I'm calling that insertion sort method directly, right? When I try to call that directly, I'm trying to move forward. I is equal to, and after I I have done my insertion sort, which means after I'm done with my sorting, what I try to do is I'm trying to print this, right? I'm trying to print this. So maybe I'll try to run this one first. So what it says, after I run this one, I say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 is my output, or maybe I'll try to print my input before it is sorted. All right. So I'll try to print before it is sorted, and then I'll say, okay, so I'll try to insert a new line over here.